Now, our next presenter is something of an overachiever, if you like. I'm told she originally wanted to be president of South Africa. So what did she do? She went to the University of London and got a PhD. To be president of South Africa, I think. You see where I'm going with this? It was the writer Peter Lawrence who said, "An economist is an expert who will know tomorrow why the things they predicted yesterday didn't happen today." Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Thabi Leoka.
I don't know if Bongani read my speech because I don't remember telling him about wanting to become the president, and I do have that in my speech. So I occasionally run marathons, only occasionally, but I do. And being identified as a change maker feels like being given a medal at the 10-kilometer mark while still huffing and puffing and having thoughts of giving up. So I'm honored to be here, to be part of this conference, speaking to people that I've always admired and having those that I revere listen to me. So education has played a significant role in my life. I did my first 3 degrees at Wits University, and my first degree was a BA Law. I did law because I wanted to become the president of South Africa. So I did from the University of Witwatersrand, not LSE. And this was when Nelson Mandela was the president. So the standards were pretty high. Unfortunately, I found law lectures boring and slow. We were taught Roman Dutch law and customary law, and all I wanted was to become this hard-hitting, well-dressed Alec McBeal type lawyer. But that meant that I had to sit through 90 minutes of customary law and Roman Dutch law. So obviously, I was never going to be a lawyer. So I added economics as an elective because it made a lot of sense to me. Economics is a study of how society use scarce resources to produce valuable commodities and to distribute them amongst different people. I could apply this to just about every aspect of my life. Economics borrows from multiple sciences. For example, behavioral economics borrows from psychology and history to analyze how past experiences may shape expectations about the future. So I got a first-class pass for both my honors and my masters. And when you get a distinction, the university gives you money. Because I only attended my undergraduate graduation ceremony, I only knew about this money due to me 17 years later. So I actually only collected my check from Wits in February 2016. So after my master's, I worked at Investec Asset Management, and then I left South Africa to study at the London School of Economics towards a PhD. This is in 2001. The LSE produced about 40 heads of states and 2 female presidents, including the current president of Taiwan. It also has produced 18 Nobel Prize winners. So I was on track to becoming the president, or so I thought. So I came back to South Africa at the end of 2011 after covering emerging markets at Barclays in London. Whilst working as an economist in South Africa is fascinating, demanding, and sobering. There is never a dull moment. There's a lot of pressure from clients to churn out reports and make sense of every high-frequency data. The media sometimes thinks that you work for them. Every time there's a data release, the media calls wanting a comment before you can actually make sense of the data and its implication. And for some reason, the day that you're looking your worst is the day that the media requests a TV interview. So I never watch myself on TV. The media has played an important role in my career. It has given me the opportunity to educate many South Africans about the economy and how, for instance, an increase in food prices or a ratings downgrade impacts their lives. The media has also given many economists a voice and an opportunity to grow their personal brand. So I enjoy interacting with policymakers. Do we call them policymakers when they don't implement or even make some of the policies? So I enjoy interacting with government officials, let me put it that way, at the National Treasury and the Reserve Bank in particular. The interaction has helped me understand how government works and why certain decisions that relate to the economy are made. Lately, politics has become the main driver of the economy. It has become very, very challenging to forecast GDP growth or the rand, for instance. Politics has also played a large role in stalling economic growth. It has also deterred much-needed investment. So investment from, let's say, mining and the manufacturing industries, for instance, is on hold currently until there's a satisfactory mining charter. Actually, the energy sector has told me that there's $6 billion that could be injected in the South African economy if there was clarity on the mining charter. The manufacturing sector blames policy uncertainty for slow growth. So being an economist can be emotionally exhausting. The economy is in a recession, the unemployment rate is about 28%, and if you include discouraged workers or those workers who've stopped looking for work, the unemployment rate is actually closer to 35%. The country is now in sub-investment grade, otherwise known as junk status, and we're likely to be downgraded again in 2018. So it's very difficult to be positive and remain optimistic when data shows that the economy is struggling. I've always enjoyed the freedom of being able to criticize government and state-owned companies for failing the economy. But recently I was told that someone who works at one of the state-owned companies said, "Thabi speaks the truth, but we really don't want to hear her truth." So I was angered by this because I don't want to sugarcoat our reality. The country is in trouble and we need strong, dedicated leaders to get us out of this rut, not ones who believe that there is a good story to tell when there isn't. So do I still want to become the president of South Africa? The answer is hell no. This country is crazy and it's noisy. Becoming a great leader is not something that happens overnight. Leadership is a process of social influence which maximizes the efforts of others towards the achievement of a goal. As someone born in the late 70s, I grew up with the hope that one day South Africa will overcome its challenges and become a prosperous country. I believed that our natural endowment, resilience, and the scars that we bear from our past equipped us with the common vision of building a country where racism, gross inequality, and corruption have no place. The spirit of those who led us from the apartheid state to a fledgling democracy reaffirmed my belief that one day South Africa will be one of the best countries in the world. I was at university when Nelson Mandela was the president. Ours was a generation of triumph. Our leaders had broken the institutionalization of apartheid. We watched them sign into law the Constitution, which is known as one of the best in the world. We looked at our leaders with pride as they received standing ovations in international gatherings. We watched them being presented with the world's most distinguished award, the Nobel Peace Prize. I look back to those days with such fond memories because I know that our democratic project was not built on solid foundations. I was a member of the SRC at Wits University, and in those days I didn't realize that I was being taught in buildings named after apartheid South Africa's leaders. I did not even question why there were hardly any black professors or even junior lecturers. I guess my generation was not lit or woke, to use modern parlance. I believe that we were blinded by victory and that this is evident in the cracks that we see today. We have achieved a lot. South Africa is a better country today than it was in 1994. Our society has transformed in every sphere, but we seem to be regressing. This week, Stats SA released a report on poverty that states that 55.5% of South Africans are living in poverty. This data looks at the country in 2015, when economic growth was actually slightly better than it is today. So this means that the 2017 data could show further increase in poverty. Never would I have imagined that in 2017, that more than 23 million South Africans are living below the poverty line. That 17 million people would be reliant on social grants, or that more than or around 35% of the population would be unemployed. I would have also not believed that the wealthiest 10% of the population own at least 90 to 95% of all wealth, or that half of the population who earn about 10% of all income would own no measurable wealth. It is our responsibility to ensure that in 20 years' time, these statistics look significantly better. This will involve growing the economy from its current slow rate to higher, more sustainable growth rates. Economic growth should be inclusive so that it advances equitable opportunities for everyone in the country. Rapid and sustained poverty reduction requires inclusive growth. We should agree on what country we want so that we can promote sectors that will drive growth and support the vision that we have for ourselves. There are far too many examples of purported leaders in business and politics who have embraced the intoxication of power while shunning the responsibility of leadership. We need to understand and never lose sight of the fact that the power of leadership always comes with the requirement to be a responsible leader. And the power used for the sake of power is an abuse of leadership. So when we look at South Africa in the next couple of years, and I think that South Africa, we often suffer from short-termism. But when we plan our future, and I believe that we need to pressurize policymakers, but we need to plan for South Africa that we want to see in the next 20, 50, 100 years, not the South Africa that we want to see beyond just 2019 elections. So when we do this, we should remember that the future is where we apply the lessons of the past. Thank you.